Alright everyone, welcome back to another video, and today what I have for everyone is my full camera review, including the photo and the video samples for the CMF Phone 1. So in today's video, I'm going to take you guys and gals through all the important aspects in regards to the cameras on your CMF Phone 1, and then I'm going to attach all my photo samples and all of my video samples, and at the very end of the video I'm going to let you guys and gals know whether or not I recommend you pick this device up strictly based off of its camera performance, because I know that's a very big thing to some people. Okay? But with that being said, I hope you guys and gals find this video helpful. This will be a long one, so it will be time-stamped down below in the video description for your convenience. So feel free to check out the timestamps down below in the video description to jump around to different parts of the video that you would like to know more about. If you can't sit down and watch it all in one go, it's up to you. You watch the video how you would like. But without further ado, let's jump into today's review of the cameras and the software interface for the CMF Phone 1. Now, before we dive into the main camera interface and start going over all the functions, features, and modes, I want to show and tell you guys how to launch the cameras and how to configure the cameras to be launched, whether you're launching it from your lock screen or whether you're launching it via a double press of the power button. I'm going to show you how to set it up both ways. Alright, so let's jump into this. So way number one, to configure the camera to be launched from your lock screen, all you have to do is jump into the settings. Then you want to scroll down or scroll up to where it says lock screen. And then you want to tap on where it says lock screen shortcut. And in here, you can configure two buttons to launch whatever you would like. And you can see I have one button set up to launch Do Not Disturb, and I have another button set up to launch us directly into the main camera interface. And one of the nice things that I like about how CMF set this up is the traditional way to do this is to tap on the icon and swipe to launch it. Well, the way that CMF has implemented it, you just press and hold on the icon to launch it. I like that. I like that a lot. It's a lot easier and a lot straightforward. But you can see you can legit program this to anything that you would like. So you can have it launch you directly into the main photo camera interface, or you can have it launch you directly into the main video camera interface, and you have all of these other options as well. Okay, so that's way number one. All right, way number two is you can configure the power button via a double press to launch you into the cameras. So again, what you would do is you jump into the settings and you scroll down to System, tap on that. Then you scroll down to Gestures, you tap on that, and then you find the gesture that says double press power button. Okay? And if you tap on this, again, you can configure a double press of the power button to do whatever you would like. And you can see I have mine set up to launch directly into the main photo camera interface, but I can also set it up to launch into the main video camera interface, or I can have it set up to launch any application of my choosing. So you can literally program the double press of the power button to do whatever you would like. Okay? Okay. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to throw up some B-roll of how you can actually do these. So I'm going to show you guys and gals how to actually do this. And what's really nice, especially about the double press of the power button, you can use that feature from any state on your device. As long as your device is in the powered on state, a quick double press of the power button will launch you directly into the cameras. Okay, so that is really, really cool. All right, cool. Now, the final way you can launch into the cameras is by simply just finding the camera app icon anywhere you have it stored on your device, whether that be in the app drawer or folders on your home screens, and you just want to tap on it, and that too will launch you into the main camera interface for the CMF Phone 1. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over all the functions and features of the main camera interface from top to bottom, left to right. And one thing that I like that CMF has done here is all of these things are not configurable or interchangeable. But yes, that takes away from customization, but once you learn these things, you'll always know exactly where everything is. Okay? Now, let's get into this. So, swiping all the way over to our left, you can see our first mode is our slow motion mode. Okay? And you can see our slow motion is capped to 1080p at 120 frames per second. But you can also see we can use our flash when we're taking slow motion video, and we can control the zoom of our slow motion video. You can tap on the shortcut, so 1 times or 2 times, and you can see they have the millimeter focal lengths depending on the shortcut that you tap on, or you can press and hold and swipe through the different zoom ranges for video. Okay? And that is your slow motion video. Again, capped at 1080p, 120 frames per second slow motion. Swiping over, next to that, we have our main video mode. Now, in regards to the cameras, we have a 50 megapixel primary rear camera and a 2 megapixel depth sensor camera. Okay? And then in regards to the front-facing camera, we have a 16 megapixel camera. Okay? In regards to the resolutions and frames per second that each camera can record at, the rear-facing camera can do 4K up to 30 frames per second, or it can do 1080p at 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second, and you simply tap on these icons to switch between the resolutions or the frame rates. So you can see I could tap on the resolution to switch between 1080p and 4K, and then I could tap on the frame rate to switch between 1080p 60 and 1080p 30. Now, for reference, all of my videos were either recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS or 4K at 30 FPS. I did not record any 1080p 60 footage. Even though you can record 1080p with the front racing camera in 30 or 60. And you can also do 1080p with the rear facing camera at 30 or 60. But you can't record in 4K with the front facing camera. You're capped with the front facing 16 megapixel camera at 1080p up to 60 frames per second. Also, in regards to plug-in audio or wireless audio, there is no plug-in audio support via the USB Type-C port, and there is no Bluetooth audio support, so you can't connect up things like Bluetooth headphones or Bluetooth earphones or Bluetooth wireless microphones and have it pass through and use that to record the audio for the video that you record with the device. Okay? So in regards to the audio, you're stuck using the microphones that are built directly into the device. Okay? Okay. Now, also in regards to video, you can control the zoom ranges. So again, we can either tap the shortcut, so 1 times or 2 times, or the equivalent focal ranges being 5.2 millimeters, or 2.6 millimeters, or you can press and hold on it and slide through the different ranges. Now you can zoom all the way up to 10 times zoom in video. But as you can see, the more you zoom, the more the image gets digitally cropped and the more basically pixelated the image gets. And honestly, I would recommend, based on my testing, and y'all will see it later on in the video, you don't really want to zoom in via the zoom feature on the device more than 2.5 times zoom. After 2.5 times zoom, I did notice that the images just tend to get a little bit more pixelated, washed out, and you tend to lose detail. So if you physically want to get closer to a subject after 2.5 times zoom, you want to physically move closer to that subject. Okay? And also, in regards to video, we have tap to focus. We also have continuous autofocus, and we can tap to lock the exposure and lock the focus. And then we can also adjust the exposure with the slider on the side here. So we can underexpose an image, we can overexpose an image, or we can dial in the image exactly how we think it should be. And then once we let go, it stays exactly where we locked it. So if you want to lock the focus, lock the zoom, and lock the exposure, that's how you do so. And then to get back to autofocus and auto exposure, you just tap anywhere on the screen, and now it's back to autofocus and auto exposure. All right? Okay. Now, as I said earlier, if we go on down to the middle, on the bottom part of the screen, we have a recording button that turns into a shutter button depending on the mode that we're in. To the left of that button, we have a shortcut to our Google Photos application. To the right of that button, we have a shortcut to jump to the front-facing camera. How y'all doing, everyone? And as I said, the front-facing camera maxes out at 1080p up to 60 frames per second. Okay? Then if we tap it again, we can jump back to the rear-facing camera. Okay? So that's what we have in terms of video modes. Okay? Now, if we hit the three-dot hamburger menu in the top right, you can see we have some additional controls. So we have HDR controls for video. We have a action mode, okay, for stabilization. We got our grid line guides, or we have more settings. And if we jump into more settings, you can see we have additional settings that we can configure and control. I'm going to dive into this later on at the end of the software walkthrough. But regardless of whatever camera mode you're in, if you hit that gear, it's going to take you directly to these main subsettings. Okay? Let's get out of that. Get out of that. Now, swiping over to the right, now we're going to get into our main photo mode. And you can see on the top left, we have flash controls, so you could turn it off. You could turn it on auto, or you can physically turn it on. Now, I don't like using flash, so I always turn mine off. Right next to that, we have the AI Scene Optimizer. And basically, as it states, it's using the chip on the device and the cameras to optimize the photo that you're taking. And sadly, you can't turn this off. But you can choose between two modes. Okay? So we have a natural mode, and or we have a vivid mode. And you can see it optimizes the scene, and then it tells you the enhancements, and then when you're done, you'll see that photo with the enhancements. Okay? And like I said, I'm kind of sad that we can't turn that off. Then right next to that, we have our HDR controls, or our high dynamic range, and that we can turn off or turn on. I always leave that on. Right next to that, we have our filters, and we do have a wide variety of filters, okay? And that white and black filter is my favorite, okay? Vista, this, or this. Okay, those are my favorite filters to use, but 9 times out of 10, unless it hits me to use it, I just leave it in original. Okay, so that's our filters. Right next to that, we have a hamburger menu, and then this is how we can control our timer. And you can see we got a 3-second timer or a 10-second timer. Now, you can also control the camera using a camera remote application on your smartwatch. And with that, you have a 2-second timer, a 5-second timer, or a 10-second timer. Okay? But you only have timer support when you're taking photos. You don't have timer support when you're taking videos. All right? Underneath that, we got our live photo mode. And as the name implies, it takes a little bit of video before taking the photo and a little bit of video after taking the photo to give you a nice action photo shot or a live photo shot, similar to what the Google Pixels do or similar to what the iPhones do. Okay? Then below that, we can choose our resolutions for the main camera. Now, as I said, the main camera is a 50 megapixel sensor, and if you tap on 50 megapixels, then it goes into an ultra 50 megapixel mode. And this is how I took all the photos with the rear facing camera. Okay? If you leave it set to 12 megapixel mode, which is what it is set to by default, then it's going to pixel bin the 50 megapixel camera down to 12 megapixel shots. Okay? But I wanted full resolution photos, so I set mine to 50 megapixels, and that's how I took all my photos with the rear facing camera. Now, all the selfies you guys and gals will see later on in the video were taken with the front-facing camera, and unfortunately, with the front-facing camera, we don't have this control. So we don't really know if the front-facing camera is pixel binned or not, and we can't really change it if it is. Okay? But everything you can do with the front-facing camera, you can do with the rear-facing camera, except for a few modes, which we're going to go over later. Okay? So that is that. Then, moving on, as I said, in terms of the zoom here, okay, because the rest of this is self-explanatory. Let me set it back to 50 megapixel mode. Okay? And then moving on here, in terms of, now you see, that's another thing I wanted to point out. When you're in 50 megapixel mode, you can't control the zoom for photos. But if you want to have the zoom on the photos, if you set it to 12 megapixel mode, then you can see, if we go back to the main viewfinder, you have a shortcut for the zoom links, just like you do in the video mode. And then you can press and hold to swipe through the different zoom ranges. And again, you can go up to 10 times zoom in photo mode only when it's set to 12 megapixel mode. Okay? And or, if we go back into the hamburger menu here, you can control the ratio at which the screen is laid out to help you better lay out and compose your photos. Now, I got used to having my layout or ratio set to 4:3, so that's what I set mine to. And honestly, as I said, I left it set to 50 megapixel mode, so I never zoomed any of the photos. But just so y'all know how to do that, that's how you do that. Okay? All right. Now, moving back to the main viewfinder here, you can see to the left on the top of the main viewfinder, not the very top, but the top bottom left or top bottom right, my mistake, that is our toggle to turn on or turn off night mode. And basically what night mode does is it boosts the color and boosts the brightness for low light images. And I gotta tell y'all, all of my low light photos were taken with night mode on. Okay? And that's regardless of whether I was using the rear facing camera or the front facing camera. Okay? Okay. And I also want to tell y'all, all the beauty mode effects were turned off in regards to my selfies. So y'all gonna see what my skin and everything naturally looks like. I'm a naturalist. I don't, prefer, extra beauty on here. I don't like the skin smoothening and all that good stuff. I'm a naturalist. I have one body. I have one face. I need to accept it for what it is. Ain't no way around it. This is what God gave me. Gotta learn to work with it. Okay? So there was no beauty modes or anything turned on for my photos. Alright? Now, moving on, so you can toggle the night mode. And I pretty much left that on because that's what I used when I took low light photos. Okay? Below that, you can see we got the camera shutter button. To the left of that, we got a shortcut to Google Lens. So if you tap on that, it will scan whatever's in the viewfinder and pull it out. So you can do web searches, you can scan text, so on and so forth. All right? So if we just hit open, now if I hold it up, it will scan anything on the image that is in the frame, and then it will let me extract what I need to extract. So yeah, I can see my pixels right here. So if I select search and I tap on that, it's going to scan, it sees a pixel, and then it's going to give me information. And in particular, it scanned and saw the pixel case, and that's what it pulled up, right? But it will also do the same thing for text, translation, so on and so forth. And you guys and gals don't know how often I use this. I use this a lot. Okay? But that's your Google Lens shortcut to the left of the main shutter button in the camera interface. To the far left, we have a quick shortcut to our Google Photos camera gallery application. And here, I just want to show y'all real quick. I want to verify that it is indeed a 16 megapixel front-facing camera, and here you can see one of the examples of the portrait mode. And I gotta say that portrait mode blurred cutout is really, really nice. But if we come to this image and we swipe up, you can see we got all of our camera information. So our ISO, our focal length, our millimeter range, our megapixel count, and our resolution. So you can see this was taken with the front-facing camera, and it is a 16 megapixel camera. Okay, swiping over, this photo right here was taken with the rear-facing camera, and you can see the watermark, and I think CMF's watermark is kind of weird. I think they need to fix that. But if we swipe up, you can see the focal length and all of the camera information, and you can indeed verify that this is a 50 megapixel rear-facing camera. Okay. And then if we swipe over again, this is without portrait mode. And again, you can see if we swipe up, verifying again, 16 megapixel front-facing camera. Okay, just wanted to show y'all that real quickly. Now, moving on, we do have a shortcut to the far right next to our shutter button to take us to the front-facing camera. And again, everything that you can do with the rear-facing camera, you can do with the front-facing camera, except for a couple of modes, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit here. Jumping back to the rear, bow, swiping over, then we have our portrait mode, okay? And once again, just like with the front-facing camera, we got our beauty effects, and you can see mine are turned off. I always turn off all beauty effects, but you could turn it on. You could do natural retouching. You could do strong retouching. And if you touch it again, it turns off. Then you can control your zoom ranges. So 1x zoom, 2x zoom, or you can swipe and hold between the zoom ranges. Now, when you're taking portrait mode shots, you can only go between 1 and 2x zoom and anywhere in between. So 1.5, 1.8, 1.2, so on and so forth. But you can only go between 1 and 2x zoom when you're taking portrait mode shots. Okay? Then you can see if we hit the icon on the bottom, that's our blurred effect. All right? So if you go up, it takes away the blurred effect. If you go down, it adds more blurred effect. Okay, so that is how I did this. So you can see this was set to, I believe it was the maximum blurred effect, and then this right here was no blurred effect. Okay, now all of the other portrait mode photos you guys and gals are going to see in the video is set to 2 times blurred effect. Okay, I felt like 2 times was a nice little balance. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out as well, but that is your portrait mode. All right, now let's get into the more modes, and this is what I wanted to point out. So in regards to the panorama, you can do that with the rear facing camera only. In regards to the expert mode, okay, which gives you the full access to dial in everything in regards to the cameras. You can only do this in photo mode, not in video mode, and you can only do this with the rear facing camera. But, okay, if you go to time lapse mode, you can make your time lapses with the rear facing camera, or you can make your time lapses with the front facing camera. Okay, but the other modes can only be done in regards to the more mode section with the rear facing camera. Okay, now moving on, let's now dive into what the sub settings do. All right, so hitting the gear icon, let's talk about the sub settings. Now, the first sub setting is something that I always recommend you guys and gals turn off, regardless of whatever device you have. That subsetting is the location metadata subsetting. So basically what this does is it stores your location information in the photo or in the video so you can index your photos in your gallery app. But I always recommend that everyone turns this off, whether you're using an Android or an iOS device, because with a little bit of technical know-how, someone can get your location information and know your location based on the photos or videos that you publish anywhere, even on social media. So that is why I always recommend that whether or not if you're using an Android device or an iOS device, turn that location savings or location metadata toggle off. Okay? Then we have our shutter sound. Then we have our mirror front camera with the rear camera and vice versa. We have a leveler. We have a watermark. And again, I think the watermark that CMF has here is kind of strange. It should have said shot on the CMF or shot on a CMF or shot on the CMF Phone 1, or it should have given us the ability to customize the watermark. Just having these strange numbers here on the watermark is kind of strange. Okay? So that's one thing that I don't like about that watermark. Either give us the ability to customize it or have it say something that makes sense. Now, I did leave this watermark turned on for all of my photos that y'all are going to see later, but I don't like it. And after this video, I will be turning it off. Okay? But I just did that, so if I ever want to go back and compare this video with other videos that I've done, I know which photos are which. Okay? But that's your watermark, and then below that, we have our photo additional controls. So you can toggle on whether or not you want to take a photo simply by tapping the screen. You got your barcode scanner, then you got your press and hold shutter functionality. Now you can set this up to do a 25-second video. So for all you TikTokers or YouTube Shorts people, this is a feature you might like. Or you can set it up to do burst photos. Okay? All right. Coming out of that, then we have our Ultra HDR. Okay? And basically that's just a boost to the standard HDR, and y'all can see a description of what it does. Now, I did leave this turned on for all of my photos as well. Okay. And then below that, we got our video encoding codecs. Now, I left my video encoder set to 8H.264 because that's pretty much compatible with everything. Every platform that you publish your videos on are going to put your videos on, so on and so forth. Every video editor or photo editor, that is compatible with everything. Whereas H.265 gives you a smaller video codec, but it's not as widely compatible with everywhere you might publish your videos. So sometimes if you publish your video somewhere where it's not compatible, you lose the audio. To remedy this, I always use the H.264 codec. And I would always recommend that you guys and gals do the same for your video encoding. Okay, that's that. And then below that, we can reset all the camera functions. All right. And that, guys and gals, essentially goes over all of the main camera interface and all the different modes, functions, and features. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach all of my photo samples, like I said earlier. I'm going to attach all my video samples, like I said earlier. And then I'm going to come back at the end of the video and let you guys and gals know how I feel about the cameras overall. So I hope you guys and gals enjoyed this section of the video. I hope you guys and gals found it helpful. I hope you guys and gals enjoyed the rest of the video. And I hope you guys and gals found it helpful. And I will see you guys at the end of the video to wrap this bad boy up. Okay? I'll see you guys on the other side. Alright everyone, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to get into testing out the front and the rear cameras on the CMF Phone 1. Starting off with this first sample here, which is a nice front-facing vlog style camera test. So this is using the front-facing 16 megapixel camera on the CMF Phone 1. Real quick vlog style sample here, out here in pretty much perfect lighting. It's a couple days after the hurricane and we have beautiful weather, so I figured why not get out here and record while the weather is nice. It's not too hot, it's not too cool, so let's get it done. Let me know what you guys and gals think of this first clip from the front facing camera on the CMF Phone 1. Alright, and the beautiful thing is here as well, I can also stop and start the video with my CMF Watch Pro 2. So really nice. I can set it up, get the angle just how I want it, and then stop and start video or take a photo. So that's really cool. Anyway, let me spin the cameras around and let's get into testing out the rear facing camera on the CMF Phone 1 now. Let's go. Give me a second. I'll be right back. I'll see y'all in a little bit. Okay everyone, and now we're testing out the primary rear-facing 50 megapixel camera on the CMF Phone 1. Okay, now we're going to run through our usual tests. So we're going to do our pan test, we're going to do our exposure test, we're going to do our zoom test, but I also want to highlight some things here. So the CMF Phone 1, the rear-facing 50 megapixel camera is the primary camera. There's a 2 megapixel depth sensor, which is just used for portrait information. But primarily, we pretty much only have one camera on the rear. It's a 50 megapixel sensor, and it can record in up to 4K at 30 FPS. Now, I will be recording in 4K at 30 FPS, but due to editing and file size constraints, I will be rendering this whole video in 2K just to save a little bit of space. All right, just so y'all know, right? Now, the front-facing camera can only record in up to 1080p at either 30 or 60 FPS, but I like to keep things uniform across the board, so we're going to be using 1080p 30 for the front maximum and 4K 30 for the rear maximum, even though you can do 1080p 30 and 60 on the front and the rear. You can only do 4K 30 on the rear, so we're going to keep everything locked at 30 FPS just for uniformity. Anyways, let's jump into the rest of today's testing. Let's start off with the pan test first. So we're going to pan from here all the way through to right about there and back. Now, another thing I want to point out is that the CMF Phone 1 does not have any type of stabilization, and because of my disability and dexterity issues, I do have shaky hands, so I do apologize for any shake you guys and gals may see in the video. It just is what it is, okay? Let's go. So coming back. Okay, that was one. Let's do it again. Coming back. That's two. Now let's bring it back to the center. Now let's do an exposure test, and this is pretty much going to be flawless because it's perfectly lit out here today. Okay, so we're going to lock on the tree in the center there and pan up and down. And really, when we test the exposure, we want a nice smooth shift from the lighter areas of the scene to the darker areas of the scene. But it's perfectly lit out here today, so I don't think we should have any exposure struggles. But if the camera does struggle with the exposure, we want it to recover as evenly and as quickly as possible. Let's start the test. We're going to pan up and down to the ground twice. Okay, here we go. Locked up on the tree, coming down, coming up. Boom. A little slight exposure shift, not bad. That was one. Let's go again. Coming down and coming up. And that's 2. I think there's a lizard right there. Yep, there he is. Okay. Hey, man, don't cause no trouble, man. I don't want to have to run away and scream like a little girl, and I'll do it too. I'll fall all over myself. All right. Now, that was the exposure test. So now, real quickly, we're going to get into the focusing test. Now, the CMF Phone 1 does have tap to focus and continuous autofocus, as well as exposure controls and focus locking controls. All right. And it does give you the ability to take photos while recording video. So that's really, really nice. But for our focus test, we're going to test it 2 ways. So we're going to do one test using continuous autofocus, and then the other test is going to be using tap to focus. Okay? And we're going to use our 3 focal subjects. So we're going to use these bushes off to my left. You can see them right there. We're going to use the main focal point of the video, the tree dead in the center right there. And we're going to use this all white pillar off to my right here. Okay? And we're going to test each thing twice. So we're going to use continuous autofocus first. Here we go. Letting the cameras do all the work. So focus point number 1, tree in front. That looks good. Bushes to the left, focal point number 2. That looks good. And then pillar to the right, focal point number 3. That also looks good. Do it one more time, and then we'll switch to tap to focus. Here we go. Tree in the center. Good. Bushes to the left. Good. Pillar to the right. Good. Okay, let me adjust my grip here. And now we're going to do the tap to focus. And that lizard is getting awfully close, bro. Calm down, bro. Don't climb over here, bro. Chill. Because if you crawl on me, it's going to be over. So adjusting the grip. Okay. Here we go. Bushes to the left. Tap. Locked up. Now that was pretty much instant. Okay. That was pretty much instant. Okay. Tree to the center. Tap. Locked up. Okay. And then pillar to the right. Tap. Locked up. Again, pretty much instant, man. Instant. But then it's perfectly lit out here. How you doing, sir? It's perfectly lit out here. So I would expect it to be, perfect. All right, let's do it one more time. Bushes to the left. Tap. Locked up. Okay. Tree in the center. Tap. Locked up. Okay, I don't want to get my finger in the frame. Got to adjust this again. Okay. And then pillar to the right, tap, locked up. Again, perfect focus, nice and quick. Gotta love that, okay? Now, last but certainly not least, let's zoom this bad boy and check how the detail, retention, and stabilization is when we zoom in. Now, as I always say for my camera test videos, you really don't want to be using zoom too much, because after a certain point, it starts digitally cropping the image and you start losing a lot of detail in the image. But a lot of people just want to know how far you can zoom in before the detail is lost. That's why I do these max zoom tests. It is what it is. All right, so this is with no zoom or one-time zoom. And then they do give you a quick shortcut to 2-time zoom. They also have that labeled as 5.2 millimeter zoom. Okay, for your camera zoom lengths, but you got 1-time zoom or 2.6 millimeter or 2-time zoom or 5.2 millimeter shortcuts, right? And then if you want, you can press and hold and a slider comes up and you can manually slide through the ranges. So this is 1.5 times zoom right here. Then I can keep sliding my finger, and this is 2-time zoom right here. Then I can keep sliding my finger. Then we have 2.5 times zoom right here. Then I can keep sliding. Okay. Then we have 3.5 times zoom right there. Then we can keep going. We can keep sliding here. And then we have 4.5 times zoom. And then we can keep going. And it goes all the way up to 10 times zoom as we try to focus on the tree way in the distance. And you can see here, the color representation is decent, but we've lost all detail, right? So you really don't want to be zooming in the maximum 10 times zoom here. Okay? If I had to make a recommendation, I would say you really don't want to zoom in past 1.5 times zoom, or at the absolute maximum 2.5 times zoom right here. If you need to get closer to your subject after those two recommendations, I would just recommend you physically move closer to the subject that you're trying to record. And honestly, that's what I would recommend for this, because I did notice pretty much after you go over 2.5 times zoom, you start to get some really grain and artifacting in the video. And I was like, typically I don't notice that right away when I do my camera test, but for this device, I did notice that as soon as I was doing my testing. So I was like, oh yeah, you definitely don't want to go over 2.5 times zoom with this one. All right. So that, guys and gals, pretty much does it for the first set of camera tests with the CMF Phone 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run inside and we're going to retest the cameras in indoor scenarios in indoor daytime low light. Okay? So give me a little bit and I'll be right back with the next set of camera tests for everyone. I'll see y'all in a second. Alright everyone, and now we're testing out the front and rear facing cameras on the CMF Phone 1 indoors daytime low light settings here. Once again, we're starting out testing out the front facing 16 megapixel camera, and this is a indoors daytime low light test, and this is being recorded in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So please let me know how you guys and gals feel the front-facing camera is doing in this stationary vlog-style test scenario. And let me know how you guys and gals feel the microphones are doing as well. And I gotta say, I really am enjoying being able to perfectly line up the shot and then start and stop the video using the remote control feature on the watch. I really like this, because now I can take my time and line up the shot and position the phone exactly the way I want the shot to be, and then I can start the video or take a photo directly from the watch. So as y'all saw, when I started the video, I could just hide my wrist off camera and start the video, and y'all wouldn't even know. I could be down here starting and stopping, getting different clips, getting different photos, and y'all would never be the wiser. So I really do like that feature, because it really lets you get control over your device from a distance. So that's really cool. Anyways, let me spin the cameras around now and let's get into testing out the rear facing camera in the same scenario. Give me 1 second, I'll be right back. See y'all in a little bit. Here, I'm gonna let y'all see me this time. There we go. Alright everyone, and now we are back in. This time we're testing out the 50 megapixel rear facing camera indoors daytime low light settings. Once again, this is being recorded at 1080p 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. Okay, let's do some quick verifications and then we'll jump directly into the testing here. Let's go. So if I pan over here, you guys and gals can see all the lights are turned off. My smart lights are turned off. My studio lights are turned off. The only light we have lighting up the scene here today is the light coming in through my window. And even then, the blinds are closed, but the shades are cracked. So this truly is an indoor daytime low light test. Okay? Just real quick verification for everyone, just so y'all can see. Let's pan back over. And now let's angle this up in the traditional reviewer style angle. So that looks good. I look like I'm slightly off center. Okay, that looks really good. And let me grab a focal subject device real quickly for when we get to that part of the video. Let's grab the oldie but a goodie right here. Boom. And I'm going to rest this down over here for when we get to the focusing section of the video. And let's go. So let's angle down now. And boom. Y'all can see this is pretty much angled up perfectly. Hold on, let me straighten this out. And now you can see what the primary camera on the CMF Phone 1 performs like indoors, daytime, low light settings here. Okay? Now I gotta say, this looks really, really good. Now, I honestly would turn on a little bit more light, or I would turn on my studio lights and adjust it to just be slightly brighter. But if I didn't have any lights and this was the only light that I had to use, I would be okay using this footage without adding any additional light. Okay? So, okay, my pen magnetized to my keyboard here. So let me show y'all. Let's do a real quick detail test here. So holding up my Bluetooth keyboard, check out the detail that you can pull in this low light scenario here. Check that out. Now, it's a little grainy, but it's still more than legible, more than usable. Let me pan this through. What do y'all think? Let me pan it back through. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Okay? And now, real quickly here, let's grab something to do a focus test with. Alright? So, I got the oldie but a goodie, the S7 active right here. And look at that. It locked on focus pretty much instantly. And check out the detail that it's able to get here in this lower light scenario. That's not bad. If we move down to some smaller text and I give y'all a nice tight close-up, check out how readable and how legible that text is. Again, I'm seeing a little bit of grain, but I don't know if that grain will come out after the video does post-processing. But that looks more than legible, more than readable. Now let's do a quick refocus test. So check out the nice shallow depth of field going on around my fingers. Look at how it blurred out the keyboard and my desk in the background. Let's see how quickly it locks back up on the keyboard in the background when I move the phone out of the frame. Ready? Here we go. Focus test number 1. 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And we're back on the keyboard. That was pretty quick, and I didn't notice any hesitation whatsoever. Now let's bring the device back in and see how quickly it locks back up on focus. Again, that was also really quick. And again, back to the smaller text on the bottom, still nice and crisp, nice and sharp. And let's check out the refocus speed one more time. So let's take the device back out. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Boom. And we're back on the keyboard. So I have to say, the focusing speeds for the CMF Phone 1 seem to be really good in my testing so far, but we're going to test it again. Now what I'm going to do is wait till a little bit later on, and we're going to test out the cameras in nighttime, artificial lighting scenarios, and in a few days here, I'm going to be able to get some low light shots like I always do. I'm a little bit busy now, but I'm going to make some time to get the low light shots that I always use. So we will have a true test of how these cameras perform, okay? But I hope y'all enjoyed this section of the camera test. I'll see y'all in a little bit. It will be a couple seconds for y'all, but it'll be a few hours for me. And then we're going to retest these cameras in artificial light nighttime scenarios here. Okay, I'll see y'all in a little bit. Alright everyone, and now we're testing out the front and the rear facing cameras on the CMF Phone 1 in nighttime artificial lighting scenarios. And starting off the testing, we're testing out the front facing 16 megapixel camera in 1080p at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up, and a nice real quick vlog style stationary camera test. So please let me know what you guys and gals think of this real quick clip. And now let me spin the cameras around and let's test out the rear facing camera in the same lighting scenario. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back with the next set of clips for everyone. See y'all in a little bit. Alright everyone, and now we're testing out the rear facing primary camera on the CMF Phone 1 in nighttime artificial lighting scenarios. So real quick, let's do some verifications and then we're going to jump straight into the testing. So if I pan over here, you guys and gals can see that it is indeed nighttime artificial light testing because one, there is no natural light coming in through our window here. You can see it's pitch black outside. And two, you can see my studio lights are turned off, but my smart lights are turned on, and I just have them set to a natural white light color. Okay, so this is indeed nighttime artificial light settings here, testing out the CMF Phone 1 primary 50 megapixel rear facing camera. Okay, real quick verification. Now let's pan back over and angle everything up in the traditional reviewer style angle, and we'll dive into this testing scenario here. Let's go. So let me back it up a little bit, make sure it's nice and straight. And then we're going to go ahead and angle everything down. And we can start the testing here. So here we go. Angle it down. Boom. Just like that. Now, I am a little off center. And let me straighten this out. Boom. That's perfect right there. And now you can see this is what the primary 50 megapixel camera looks like on the CMF Phone 1 in nighttime artificial lighting scenarios here. So now let's do some real quick tests. First, let's do a detail test. Let me hold up my keyboard here, and you guys and gals let me know how's the detail from this camera doing. Okay, now based on what I see, it's doing a really great job. These keys look nice and tack sharp, and it's really, really legible. Let me know what you guys and gals think. Let me pan it through. So we're going to pan from here all the way through to right about there and back. Okay, that looks really good. And then now let's do some real quick focus testing here. So let me break out my S7 active, and we're going to use it to be a focal subject. So here you can see we're bringing the device in, and look at how it blurred out the background. Okay, nice subtle blur out of the background, and look at how the device picks up the nice stipple pattern on the back of the S7 active. Right now, let's try and focus in on this smaller text down at the bottom. Okay, and I want you guys and gals to let me know how readable is that, how legible is that. Let me know down below. How good can you read that? That actually looks really good to me. Alright, and then again, look at the nice depth of field or the blurred out background going on at the edge of my fingertips. Really good job isolating the focal point. And now let's see how quickly it can relock on the keyboard when I take the phone out of the frame. Let's go. You ready? Focus test number 1. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, pull. Boom. And it drops back focus on the keyboard really, really quickly. And again, I'm not seeing any hesitation or any stutters when it has to relock focus. And I'm not seeing any hesitation or any stutters when it has to lock focus. Okay? And even if it did, you have tap to focus to assist it. But it's really good to see that the autofocus or continuous autofocus does a really good job. And that really does tend to be, regardless of whatever scenario that you're shooting in, as long as you have decent to good lighting, it's going to have really, really good focusing speeds. Where it is going to struggle is when you have little to no lighting. Okay? It is going to struggle there. Okay, but let's do the focus test one more time. So bringing the device back in. Again, check out that nice stipple pattern on the back. Okay, looking really good if I must say so myself. And then let's go and try to get a nice tight focus on the text on the bottom. Again, nice and tight. Try to make it as tack sharp as we can. Okay, right there, that looks good. And then let's see how quickly it relocks focus on the keyboard in the background when we take the focal subject out. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. And then look how quickly it locked back up on the keyboard there. Really, really good stuff. So again, the focusing speeds when you have decent to good lighting are going to do a great job. Where it's going to struggle is when you have little to no lighting. Unfortunately, these cameras do struggle with that in regards to photos and or videos. Now, if you want something that's not going to struggle with that as much, then you want to be looking at something like a Pixel device or a Samsung Galaxy device. But if you're okay with having to take a little bit of extra time to really get decent to good lighting, and you're okay with have to, and you're okay with being and you're okay with having to really line up your shot, then these cameras are actually really good. All right, but that does it for the artificial low light testing on the CMF Phone 1. Now, a little bit later on in the week, we're going to wrap up the video testing in 4K with the primary rear-facing camera. We're going to do a vlog-style test, and then we're going to do a regular rear-facing 4K camera test. And I'm going to let you guys and gals know how I feel about the cameras on the CMF Phone 1. And if not, I can recommend a device strictly based off of the camera performance. So I hope you guys and gals have enjoyed the testing so far, and I will see you guys in the final clips. I'll be back in a little bit. It's going to be a couple seconds for you guys. It's going to be a couple days for me. All right, see you in a little bit. All right, everyone, and now we're getting into the final set of camera tests for the CMF Phone 1. So we're out here in the big yard today, and we're going to record these last set of clips in 4K at 30 FPS, okay? So we're going to start off here, and we're going to do our usual pans. We're going to do our focus test, we're going to do our exposure test, and then we're going to finish off with a zoom test. Now, first things first, before we get into the testing, one thing that I'm repeatedly noticing is that the sensor is cropped in really far. Like, I kind of find myself, for the standard focal range, wanting to zoom it out, only to realize that it doesn't have a zoom out function and it doesn't have an ultra wide function. I guess I'm just naturally used to more wider sensors or using ultra wide sensors. I'm not sure, but the crop on this sensor seems really big, because I'm standing here where I usually record at, and I just feel like I'm punched in way too far, and I'm out as far as I can go in terms of the zoom. I'm zoomed all the way out. Alright, so I kind of don't like that. I kind of wish there was a more wide standard sensor or an ultra wide sensor. I'm a big fan of ultra wide sensors, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's get into the testing of this primary 50 megapixel sensor on the CMF Phone 1. Now, it is a little windy today, so I do apologize, but the weather is great. We're roughly about 5 days after the hurricane, and the weather is always great after hurricanes. I don't know why. It's always windy, but it's always great. It's always like 81, 82, nice and windy, very nice. With the humidity, even though it's 81, 82, it kind of feels like 79, and 79 to me is like the perfect temperature, so it feels great right now. It is what it is. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Let's get into this test. So let's start off with our pan test first. So we're going to pan from here, okay, all the way through to right about there and back. We're going to do this 2 times. So this is 1, coming on back. Okay, and then here we go with number 2. Okay, coming on back. And then we're going to bring it back to the center. All right, good stuff there. Next, we're going to do our exposure testing. So we're going to pan up and down. We're going to use this tree directly in front of me here. And we're going to pan up and down to the grass. And we're going to see how well the cameras do adjusting for the changes in exposure. So we're going to pan down and we're going to pan back up. And ideally, what we would want to see is a nice smooth transition from the lighter areas of the scene to the darker areas of the scene and vice versa. If the cameras do overexpose or blow out, we want them to recover as quickly and or as evenly as possible. So let's see how the camera does. So we're lined up on the tree here, and we're gonna go down to the ground. And we're gonna come back up. Boom, that's one. We're gonna do this 2 times. So here we go again. We're lined up on the tree, and we're gonna go down. Boom, and we're gonna come back up. Boom. How was that? That actually felt pretty good. Now, there were some points where I couldn't get a direct look at the viewfinder, so I got to watch the video back in post. But y'all let me know how that was. Okay? Now, we're going to test out the focus. Now, for the CMF Phone 1, we do have continuous autofocus, as well as tap to focus, as well as exposure controls and focus controls. Okay? So the first test here, we're going to pick 3 focal subjects, and we're going to let the continuous autofocus try to handle everything. Then I'm going to adjust my grip, and then we're going to use the tap to focus and see which one is better. Y'all let me know which one you think does better, and also please let me know how the overall stabilization is. Now we're doing this semi-handheld because it doesn't have stabilization, and I don't want it to be super shaky because I have super shaky hands. So I'm kind of using my mini tripod here and a phone mount. Nothing too serious, but I didn't want the video to be super shaky because I have super shaky hands, so that's what we're using. Now the first couple of videos from the 1080p clips, those were handheld, so this way y'all can see the difference between handheld and using something very minimal for a little bit of stabilization. And then also you should be able to see the differences in devices with built-in stabilization for the cameras versus devices without built-in stabilization for the cameras. That's why I do it like that. Okay, so let's get into the focus testing now. Let's go. So we're going to use the tree in front of us here as focal point number 1. Okay, we're going to use the tree over the shed right there as focal point number 2. And my poor mango tree with all the mangoes off of it right here to the right is going to be focal subject number 3. These are going to be our focal points, and we're going to cycle through them 2 times each. So you ready? Here we go. Contiguous autofocus first, lining up on the tree in the center. That looks pretty good. Tree over the shed. That also looks pretty good. And now mango tree to the right. Okay, one more time. Tree in the center. Tree over the shed. Mango tree to the right. Boom. Now let me adjust my grip. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing, but tap to focus this time. So tree in the center, tap, locked up. Tree over the shed, tap, locked up. Mango tree to the right, tap, locked up. Really, really fast tap to focus, and really, really good continuous autofocus from what I can see as well. Let's do it one more time. Tree in the center, tap, locked up. Tree over the shed, tap, locked up. Mango tree to the right, tap, locked up. Good stuff there. Good stuff there indeed. Okay. Now, the last test we're going to do is a zoom test. So y'all see that big tree all the way over there in the distance? We're going to try and lock focus, lock exposure, lock everything on that big tree over there. And then we're going to slowly zoom into it, and we're going to see how much detail gets retained, how much decent stabilization gets retained, and how much overall accuracy gets retained the more we zoom in. Now the neat thing here with the CMF Phone 1, let me lock this up first of all. So we're going to lock in the focus. Boom, the focus is locked. We're going to dial in the exposure. Make sure the exposure is just right for the day. Right there, that is perfect. And then we're gonna start to zoom in now. So focus locked, autofocus locked, exposure locked. So the neat thing about the CMF Phone 1 is that it does give you one shortcut. So the standard focal range is 1 time zoom, or what they like to call 2.6 millimeters. And then they give you a shortcut to 2 time zoom, or what they like to call, what is that, 5.2 millimeters? Yes, 5.2 millimeters. So they do give you a 2 time zoom shortcut or 5.2 millimeter shortcut. But if you press and hold on the zoom, you then get a slider that lets you keep zooming. And you can go all the way up to 10 times zoom, as y'all can see right there. But now, let's just go through the zoom ranges real quick. So 1 time zoom right here. Okay, and then we're going to press and hold and slide. 1.5 times zoom right here. Keep going. 2 times zoom right here. 2.5 right here. And if you're going to use the zoom, this is as far as I suggest you use in terms of the zoom in with the camera shortcut. Okay, but let's keep going here. 2.5, 3.5, and I'm off of the tree already. My bad, y'all. There we go. 4.5 right there. 5.5 right here. And then all the way up, let's do 10 times. 10 times right there. And you can see at 10 times zoom, it's pretty much a blown out and washed out mess. Now the stabilization is still pretty decent, but you got to be very, very careful about your movements, because any sudden movement will really shake up the camera. Okay? But pretty much from what I can tell, after 2.5 times zoom, the digital cropping gets really, really bad. So I would never recommend that anyone uses the 10 times max zoom on the CMF Phone 1. I would probably only recommend that you guys only use, as far as 2.5 times zoom, this right here. If you want to get better or a closer video, you need to physically move closer to your subject, because the last thing you want to do is have a digitally degraded image that looks super pixelated and washed out. Okay, so I would recommend either 1.5 times zoom or 2.5 times zoom at the most. All right, let's go back to the standard 1 time zoom now, or 2.6 millimeters. Okay, and this, guys and gals, completes the overall testing with the CMF Phone 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the cameras around, and we're going to test out the rear sensor in 4K 30 FPS in a vlog style scenario. Alright, so give me 1 second. I'm going to set that up, and I'm going to come back and let y'all see how that looks and give y'all my closing thoughts as to how I feel about the cameras. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back with everyone for the final test clip. Alright? Alright, everyone, and what I have for everyone here is one final camera test of the rear-facing primary 50 megapixel camera on the CMF Phone 1, and this is a vlog style camera test with the CMF Phone 1 and its primary camera in 4K at 30 FPS with no external microphone hooked up. So, overall, how do I feel about these cameras? And can I recommend that you guys and gals go out there and pick up this device strictly based on its camera performance here in late 2024? Well, overall, I would have to say these cameras are really good. Okay? Are they the best that I've seen, especially in this price point? No. Do they deliver all the features that I would like to see coming out of cameras in regards to the camera performance and the software and features for the cameras? No. But what they do deliver and offer, they do a really great job at, and they deliver overall solid performance. And honestly, if you're an average consumer and you're just taking the occasional family photo, posting it to social media, or you're taking the occasional family video, posting it to social media, you really can't go wrong with the cameras on this device right here. Sure, it's going to take you an extra second or two to line it up and take a good photo, but if you have decent to good lighting, you're going to get a good photo, I would say 7 out of 10 times. And that too holds true in regards to the video performance as well. It's going to take you a little bit of extra time to line up the video and get it exactly the way you want, but overall you're going to be able to get some really good video performance and audio capture capabilities out of this device. So, can I recommend that you guys and gals go out there and pick up this device, especially for the price and what it offers in regards to the cameras? Again, I'm going to have to say yes. Yes, indeed. So, with that being said, I hope you guys and gals found this review helpful. I hope you guys and gals enjoyed this video. And I hope everyone is staying safe out there and having a great day. You guys and gals stay tuned because more coverage is coming out on this device soon. And I will catch you guys and gals in the next one. Have a good one, everybody. We are out of here. Peace.